Let's enter the small sample theater to talk about 3 early season trends with Jason Timpf. Sunday night, we saw the San Antonio Spurs finally lose a game. They lost their first time of the entire season to the Phoenix Suns, who beat them 130-118 in the game. And the Suns, they held Victor Wembanyama to only 9 points on 4 of 14 from the floor. He had 2 assists to 6 turnovers in that entire game. And ultimately, the main thing we saw in this game, Jason, was a lot of double teams against Victor Wembanyama. The Suns threw 2 at him, better than anybody has this entire season so far. And we've seen, Dallas tried it on opening night. We've seen the Nets try it. Nobody did it better than the Suns did with the pressure against Victor, and the Spurs performed quite poorly in this game. And so this is leading me to my question for you here, because with Victor this season, he's experienced so many double teams. When he faces single coverage, Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs are scoring 1.01 points per play out of isolations and post-ups. He turns the ball over only 5.9% of the time when he faces single coverage. Against double teams, 17 plays total, he's been doubled. The Spurs have scored only 8 points, so 0.47 points per play with a 17.6% turnover percentage. I would imagine the Suns showed a formula that we're going to see a lot of moving forward this season. What's your read on what we saw in that Sunday night game between the Suns and the Spurs? And do you think this is going to be something we see against San Antonio and Victor a lot more moving forward this year?
Almost certainly. I don't think it'll look as bad as it did last night. Like, there was some stuff with Wemby last night that was kind of reminiscent of his rookie year, like him kind of getting dislodged off of his base and fumbling the basketball away, trying to dribble through traffic, seemingly just struggling with physicality, which is something that to start this year, it just hasn't been an issue, right? So I think some of it was like Wemby played a really bad game too. But the issue that you're calling attention to, I think, is significant in the sense that this is going to be the way that most teams will decide to guard San Antonio. And when they do, it'll highlight one of this roster's individual weaknesses, which is shooting the basketball, right? So they actually have been decent off the catch to start the season before last night, better than you would have expected. But last night, just 0.69 points per catch and shoot jump shot. That's obviously not going to get the job done when you're double teaming your best player, right? So I think it's going to be one of those things where, as a team, the Spurs are going to have to figure out how to address this specific issue. How are we going to score when Wemby has the basketball and he's getting double teamed? I think the Dylan Harper going down with the calf injury was kind of an issue too, because him and his ability to cut an offensive rebound has been super helpful for them in their spacing. Steph Castle's a guy who can do a lot of work in the middle of the floor off of Wemby as a cutter. Keldon Johnson as well. They can get more stuff that doesn't necessarily involve catch and shoot shooting. I think the bigger issue, though, that I kind of noticed from last night was, ironically, their defense. It's one of those things where even in the early part of the season when their schedule was pretty easy, they were still a mediocre half-court offense. I think they were like 14th or 15th in the league on cleaning the glass before last night's game. But they were just so good on defense and so good on the defensive glass and so good in transition that they were scoring extremely well. And last night, the Suns, this is actually an insane stat. The Suns per catch and shoot jump shot last night, 2.11 points per attempt. So when Phoenix is going to shoot the ball that well, now they're not getting those long rebounds and those defensive rebounds opportunities to run. And so like that kind of just shined an even bigger light on their half court execution, which obviously was so brutal with their catch and shoot shooting and the turnovers that it just kind of looked, let me just refine it to say this is the most exaggerated version of what it will look like. But I do think this will be a recurring issue throughout the season for them.
Totally. I mean, I think it's going to be very fascinating to see how much we see it, because like with Jokic, for example, when you double team Jokic, he shreds you. Like you almost are better off playing single coverage sometimes. Giannis is facing a lot of double coverage. Zion, like there's a number of great players that are facing a lot of single coverage. So with San Antonio, this split is extreme. Like, I don't think it's going to be 0.47 points per isolation or post up when the ball is in Victor's hands the whole season. Like, that's just crazy. If a couple of threes are hit out of those double teams, sometimes triple teams, that number inflates a lot. This is why it's small sample theater here. However, I do think we're going to see probably teams increase the frequency in which they do it. I mean, until the Spurs do start hitting those threes you're talking about, until it starts actually happening, you're going to see teams say, we're not going to let Victor Wembanyama shoot 60% and dominate from the post and ISO. We're going to force the ball out of his hands as much as possible and force Keldon Johnson to beat us, like Jordan McLaughlin, like De'Aaron Fox once he's back eventually. Like that's what teams are going to decide to do. A De'Aaron Fox spot up three or Victor Wembanyama facing up, attacking the basket. That will have to be the equation at times for these teams. But ultimately, if I'm the Spurs, I'm not like overreacting it, but I do think it does touch on your overall point here with the lack of shooting. But the turnover number that's in there, though, Jason, 17.6% of those possessions were turned over to 5.9% against single coverage. I think that does touch on one of the things that we've seen teams also try against Victor is putting a smaller guy on him. What are your thoughts on that strategy that we've seen teams try against Victor?
In general, I think that's what you have to do. I think we've seen, I thought the Dallas game was the most resounding example of this, but if you put a bigger bodied center against Wemby, he is both bigger and faster than them. It's just an absolute recipe. It's such a recipe for disaster. But like, seeing a lot of like the Oso Ighodaro type, the Royce O'Neal type, just like the kind of shorter, more like stocky athlete up underneath him, it tests that base that we were talking about earlier. And that's the interesting part. Like when I look at the double teams in particular, the turnovers, there's a couple of different ways that they're coming, but one of the most significant ways is just literally attacking his base and he's losing the basketball in traffic. The cross court passes, they're getting up underneath him and disrupting his base so that when he goes to throw the cross-court pass, it's looping, it's way too high, it's giving the defense a chance to rotate. And that's why I think like we've seen it work on a couple of occasions this season, but I'd like to see him get the ball more to the middle of the floor out of those double teams. So like a flash from the weak side or a cut right off of the slot there with someone relocating to that strong side wing, making that passing read for Wemby quicker and shorter so that it's something that they can get the ball out quickly and play a little bit of 4-on-3 rather than asking Wemby to basically like retreat against a little guy and go like way over his head to throw some cross-court pass that has almost no chance of hitting the shooter in the pocket.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's spot on, Jason. Well, let's move on to the next one in our small sample theater here. Ryan Rollins and the Milwaukee Bucks. He's off to an outstanding start to this season, basically tripling all of his numbers so far from what we saw last year. Last season, he averaged 6.2 points per game in 14.6 minutes per game. Well, that's up 18.2 points per game and double the minutes, 32 minutes per game. His efficiency is up from 60% true shooting to 65.3%. He's not turning the ball over. He's distributing out of pick and rolls. He's near the tops of the NBA in pick and roll efficiency. Ryan Rollins, Jason, is Ryan Rollins for real?
I think so. I mean, whether or not he's going to be like some all-star level 20-point per game guy, it's certainly way too soon to tell. But like even before these recent 2 back-to-back career high games that he had, I, in the early part of the season, was really impressed with just the natural kind of give and take he had with Giannis, where he was finding his opportunities to be aggressive in pick and roll, but not really stepping on Giannis's toes and kind of disrupting Giannis's rhythm. He just kind of looked like a guy that was slotting into basically doing a better job of what Kevin Porter Jr. was doing at the tail end of last year. And, the couple of big things that stand out, it's a lot to the basket where he's being way more efficient than most guards are. He's kind of bigger and more physical than you'd think for a guard. He gets into your body well and gets his arms out and finishes in traffic well. And then he's already hit more pull-up threes than he hit the entirety of last season. So that's the counter to that little bit of downhill force. And then for a guy who doesn't really have a lot of ball handling reps at the NBA level, he's been really good with his kick out reads. I think one of the sneaky kind of like fun parts of this season for the Bucks is shifting a lot of Damian Lillard's minutes and a lot of, lesser athletes to guys like Ryan Rollins that are bigger, more athletic, that pressure the rim. That Cole Anthony too, I think, has brought a good amount of this where he's like just been downhill and making kick out reads and they're surrounding him with shooting. And so it just kind of works in the sense that if you look at this roster on paper, for them to be, what are they, 4th in offensive rating, I think is a testament to just how complementary all these guys are. Giannis has obviously been amazing. Ryan has just blossomed into this legitimate secondary ball handler. And then you've got him surrounded by shooting and a couple of other dudes who can pressure the rim. It just kind of makes sense in modern basketball. And with Ryan, obviously, whether or not he becomes more of that all-star fringe, all-star level handler in the long run, a guy who can average, 20 points per game, is going to come down to this kind of stuff he was doing against Golden State, hitting some of those tougher pull-up threes, that big mid-range jump shot he hit off of the left elbow, extended one-on-one late in the game, where he just gets downhill and then pops right left off the floor and knocks it down. Like that higher level, almost Devin Booker-esque shot making will be the ceiling raiser for him. But just his ability to get to the basket and finish, hit a three when a guy goes under or dies on the screen, and make the pick and roll reads, while also being a much bigger athlete than Damian Lillard on the other side of the floor, has like kind of fundamentally altered this team. This is a way more physically imposing Bucks team. That Jalen, the game they beat the Knicks, Ryan Rollins was doing a great job on Jalen Brunson down the stretch of that game. Got a big steal on him and forced him into an air ball late. Like he's just a more dynamic athlete on both ends of the floor than Dame was.
It sounds outrageous to say, but it is crazy just how much better it feels with Ryan Rollins than Damian Lillard because of two-way ability, to your point. It's not just the offense that Ryan Rollins is performing with right now, it's defense as well. And it's just like with Dame, it just was made out to be, and we all thought, or most people thought it would be Giannis and Dame, this amazing combination, unstoppable in the pick and roll. Well, it never was. And it already looks like they have better chemistry with Rollins and Giannis, and Rollins and Turner look good. They're using Kuzma as a screener sometimes as well. Like every combination with Ryan Rollins is excelling. And ultimately with the Bucks, before the season started, in my predictions I wrote about on Yahoo Sports, was about, one of them was with the Bucks. I said the Giannis trade rumors are going to die. I said the Bucks are going to be too good. We're not going to hear about it until the summer, if that. We might never hear it again. It might be dead for good. With the Bucks, so far this season, they're 4-2. They lost over the weekend to the Kings on Saturday night by 2 points, 135-133. But they're 4-2. They beat the Warriors. They beat the Knicks. They've had some good performances so far this year. I'm a little bit surprised to still see them fourth in championship odds. Maybe it's too early to see big swings here, Jason, but
they're fourth in championship odds right now.
I'm sorry, fourth in the East.
Okay, I was going to say
fourth in the East, behind the Cavs, who are heavy favorites at plus 200. Then the Knicks, then the Magic, still ahead of the Bucks. So maybe it's too early for these things to change. But I just think like they have the best player in the Eastern Conference with a really good supporting roster around him. It's wide open in the East. Maybe I'm weighting Giannis's presence too much, but I look at this roster and I love what I see around Giannis, and I feel like this team does have a chance to represent the East in the NBA Finals. I feel like plus 1,100 odds or whatever it is this morning. I think it's a little it's not high enough. It should be more like plus 600, third best in the East or something like that. But this team has a real shot, in my opinion, man. I know it's early.
It's super complimentary. Like it's crazy to think last year, like look at the main lineup that we saw most of last year, where it's like Dame, Gary Trent, Taurean Prince, Giannis, and Brook. It's like Miles is a much better athlete than Brook. AJ Green
changes
is a much
everything.
Quicker player than AJ Green's a much quicker and smarter defender than Taurean Prince is. Taurean Prince back in the day, maybe, but like he's just so slow. I don't really trust him guarding opposing guards. And then going from Dame to Ryan Rollins, they are fundamentally different athletically, fundamentally different. And they look much closer to, obviously, Sacramento game notwithstanding. That was kind of a letdown, I thought, and they just really struggled to guard him in that particular game.
They should have smacked him, Jason.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
absolutely.
I thought we'd be entering this show Bucks 5-1 today after beating the Kings, who have not been good this season at all. But like that is a disappointment. So like I say all that, and yet I understand when they do need to prove it over time.
And they could have won that game too. Like, I mean, like there was a couple of questionable calls late. There was the DeRozan spinning into the lane. There was the play where Miles Turner stripped. I think it's kind of a BS sequence where Miles strips Zach LaVine clean and gets called for a foul, and then Giannis gets the exact same call on the final. Yeah, but it is what it is. But they lose. It's more just looking big picture at the team. They're fundamentally different athletically. kudos to Doc Rivers too. He's playing the right guys. He's kind of like putting them in the right spots. And it kind of reminds me of the 2018 Cavs in the sense that it's like Giannis surrounded by shooting, and they're just athletic and physical enough to be able to get enough stops. And that just makes them a puncher's chance in an Eastern Conference where, as long as Darius Garland isn't healthy, even the Cavs are vulnerable. And so every team in that conference is vulnerable. So I could easily talk myself into them winning the conference.
Yeah, without a doubt. Like you said, Doc Rivers has been great so far this season. Again, Kings game notwithstanding. Ultimately, I mean, like 1 year ago, there were the rumors about Brook Lopez leaving to go to Houston. And, there's a lot of, rumblings that the Bucks actually wanted to modernize their team. Well, Miles Turner has done a lot of that, and the Bucks look a lot different. They've shifted their identity entirely, and it looks excellent. Let's move on to our last of the 3 small sample theater topics, and that is the Oklahoma City Thunder. There is one undefeated team remaining. That's the 7-0 Thunder. Last season, they win 68 games, 12.7 net rating. They go on to win the NBA Finals. So far this season, they have a 13.1 net rating. They have the number 1 defensive rating again. Last year, the defensive rating was 7 points per 100 possessions, better than the league average. So far this year, number 1 defensive rating is 10.7 points per 100 possessions, better than the league average D rating. And this is all without Jalen Williams. Everything without Jalen Williams so far this season. So, Jason, are the Thunder even better than they were last year?
I think that was a given coming into the season, and it certainly has been the case to start. I mean, you have to like you mentioned, J-Dub, Chet's been out the last 3 games. Mind you, it's been a really light schedule that they've played over that specific stretch. But like the biggest thing that stands out to me is they kind of are like they're grinding out wins in like close games that are ugly, like they did early in the season against Indiana and against Houston. It's very much a veteran basketball team kind of thing. With Chet being out, and with J-Dub being out, it's put extra pressure on Shea on offense, and I think he's been fantastic. I think we've seen really impressive stuff from A.J. Mitchell and Aaron Wiggins bringing additional offense. I think Isaiah Joe being back has been crucial for them, just because there was a stretch there where you're watching them in the first couple of games where you're like, man, you take J-Dub out, and there's just not a lot of offensive skill on this roster.
Two double overtime games to start the year.
Yeah, exactly. But like to their credit, like they've been just getting enough from those other 3 guys that I just mentioned. Shea, I think, has been fantastic, especially late in games early in the season. And so this is like, it's all the classic stuff with OKC, right? Like defense to transition, getting a ton of points off of turnovers, ball pressuring like crazy. Like Lou Dort shot the ball like crap to start the year, but I thought he did an unbelievable job defensively on Kevin Durant and on Pascal Siakam in both of those games. Like there's a consistency with their baseline foundation of being just this butt-kicking physical perimeter defense that forces a bunch of turnovers. But Shea, I think, looks better than he did last year. You're getting offensive contributions from some guys further down the roster, and reinforcements are on the way. Like they are going to get J-Dub back. They are going to get Chet back. Like they were a safe bet to win, at a minimum 60 games this year. But like I legitimately think 70's on the table. Like this team is that kind of special.
Wow. So you think 70 is on the table with them? I would too. I believe that there's a real chance of that. But this team is special, and it's because they have so many lanes to be better. Like all their youth. This is not an old team that won 68 games and won the NBA Finals. It's one of the youngest teams in NBA history that won the finals. And so these young guys can get better. And so this next week, Jason, they have 4 games starting on Tuesday against the Clippers. It's a road trip, 4-game road trip at Clippers, at Blazers, at Kings, at Grizzlies. Are they 11-0 in a week?
The Grizzlies, the Grizzlies are on the way down. I'm sure we're going to talk about them later today. Yep. The Kings, I have not been high on them at all, even after the Milwaukee win. But that said, Portland is a team I have a healthy amount of respect for. They are very big, very athletic on the perimeter. They have rim protection. The Clippers are starting to play a little bit better. So like I think 3-1 in that trip would be a huge win for them.
Which one do you think they lose of the 4? Which one are they going to drop?
I'm going to go with they drop the game to the Clippers. Man, that's tough because even Portland, like Denny's playing super well, and he's too big for some of their guards. Although I think Dort will present some problems for him. They're going to drop one of those two. I'm going to go with they drop the Clippers game. What do you think?
I think they're going to be 11-0 in a week, and they're going to be entering next week. They face the Warriors and the Lakers on back-to-back nights. I think one of those or both of those are on national TV, and so they're going to be 11-0 entering Warriors and Lakers back-to-back, and it's going to be a big thing in a week from now.